Hi.
Hi, how are
Finally,
you?
yes. Very well. Thank you so much for joining our event today. Really happy to have Blocket with us, you with us to lead this session with us. Um,
Thanks for having me. And I can confirm that we could see your screen when you share.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's such a relief because I have a backup screen on my mobile, so it was not working. So it was
Okay,
not refreshing.
understand.
So I
Yeah.
was like very jittery, like what's happening right now?
Yeah.
But brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. Um, if we could begin a little bit about your professional journey before Blocket. So let's go a few years back. If you would like to tell our audience what have been you've been up to and what's your you've worked in telcos. So let's start.
Yeah, okay, so let's start. I have a Master's of Science in Industrial Engineering from Linköpings Tekniska Högskola, I-linjen in Swedish, Industrial Economy, and I graduated 99. And when I did, I started working at Nokia, and did so for many years. And those were, there may be a lot of listeners that are so much younger than I am on this call and may not think of Nokia as a cool brand, but back in the days, it really was. And it was such a fun experience to be part of that ride. It was fantastic. So I was with Nokia for I think 7 years, of which 2 of them were as an expat in Vancouver, British Columbia. And
Mhm.
if you've never been, go because it's fantastic. I later then joined a smaller company called Terra Play Systems that started with was working a lot with online gaming
Mhm. Mhm.
communities, uh, and I think they were a little ahead of their time, or we were a little ahead of our time. And I was only there for a short period of time, and then I started working with Tele2, '07 or '08 maybe. And I was with Tele2 for quite many years, for 11 years,
Mhm.
always within the B2B segment of things. And I had 3 years off in the midst of everything because we were then my husband was an expat and I was the accompanying wife, and we moved to Portland, Oregon, and we were there for 3 years, and under which those 3 years we had 2 little boys. So we went there with 4 suitcases and two golf sets, and we
Uh-huh.
came back with like loads of experiences, and most importantly, as a family with 2 little boys, 2 little American citizens, actually. And now I've been with the last. I did a bunch of different things at Tele2. Again, always within B2B, but I worked with service management, with customer care, and then my last job there, so to speak, was being responsible for all of the B2B stuff in Tele2 in Sweden. And a big milestone is that was acquiring TDC in Sweden. TDC is like the Danish Telia, and in
Okay.
Sweden they had a B2B business, and Tele2 acquired that. So that was lots of fun and a really cool experience.
Okay, so Nokia, I still remember I worked with. I worked a little bit when I was before Sweden. I worked in the telecom sector more as an advisor on the advertising and research side. So
Mhm.
Nokia was one of the key suppliers to large telecom companies in the place
Yeah,
that I worked in,
yeah.
and they had a line, if I remember correctly, connecting people or something.
Connecting people. Yes.
What a simple
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. Mm.
I don't know where did
Brilliant. See, and we remember it 20 years later.
it's
Yeah.
like simple messages are so
Yeah.
much easier to remember, and I think somewhere they lost the entire game, and that happened. We have seen that happen in telecom space. We have seen BlackBerry,
Yes.
like they were on the top of the corporate ladder,
Yes. Yes.
and then poof,
Yeah.
gone.
Made a couple of bad mistakes or bad
Mhm.
decisions,
Yeah.
and whilst your competition made really good decisions.
Mm,
Apple came in, and Nokia and some of the other handset manufacturers. I was on the handset side.
mm,
Made a bunch of now when we look in the
mm.
rearview mirror, incorrect decisions.
But then it means that in a space like digital space, and I think in digital space that trend continues. So telecom is close to a digital space as opposed to some very old industry where it probably takes decades for a company to die out, as opposed to in telecom it happens fast. And now in post telecom era, in the social networks, digital economy, it might even be faster.
Yep.
So I think it's very important to be on your feet doing new things all the time. You cannot be on the back foot with innovation.
No, no. And it has to make sense. I mean, it's a cliche, but keep your eye on the ball. And I think that's quite important because you have to, I believe that you have to, it's such a balance because you have to be true to your core, you have to be true to your purpose, to your
Mm,
offering, to all of that. But whatever took you to where you are today is not going to take you to where you want to go tomorrow. So you have to
mm.
be intelligent about how do you further evolve what you've got, not too fast and not too slow. And I think that's just a really, really important and very difficult balance.
Brilliant. So I think great message for our audience over here. Keep your eye on the ball and evolve. So I think evolution and keeping your focus is very important. Let's talk about Blocket. How did that happen, and how were the early days and all? How was the transition to yeah?
Well, it happened way before me. I've only been with Blocket for 2 years,
Mhm.
of which actually I think in a few weeks I pass where I've been the CEO of Blocket in a pandemic longer than I was in what we used to refer to as normal. So
Uh-huh.
that in itself is kind of strange. But Blocket was founded back in 1996 in Skåne,
Mm.
and it was founded by a guy named Henrik, and he was frustrated by, or he kind of observed that people were ripping or tearing paper out of their notebooks and putting it up on the board at ICA or any other local
Uh-huh.
supermarket, trying to sell and sell stuff. Uh,
Mm.
and so he was a very, very early digital pioneer, and
Mm.
his name was Henrik Nordström. And he did this in the early 90s. And by 1996, he had built a really good tool for a good marketplace tool. And that was very local. It started out in Skåne, in the southern parts of
Mm.
Sweden. And then by 1997, it was available for all of Sweden. And by 1998, Blocket had 6,500 unique visits per day, which is pretty
Mm.
cool. So, I mean, that was fast, I would argue. And I think I believe that was like such a key component for all of Blocket's success, that the right timing, the right solution, or the right
Mm.
product, the right offering, it just hit right, and it caused a lot of interest. And instead of coming in a downward spiral, it came in a very upward going spiral.
Mm.
And 2003 was when Schibsted bought Blocket, and Schibsted being the big Norwegian media house.
Mm.
And since then, Blocket, there are many, many clones of Blocket around
Uh-huh.
the world. So back in the day, we put this on a CD-ROM I guess it was a CD-ROM back then. Put the code on a CD-ROM, and this guy, Martin Frey, he was a trainee at Schibsted at the time. He got on a bunch of airplanes and went worldwide, and together with really small local entrepreneur teams, activated Blocket or created clones of Blocket all around the world. So it's pretty, pretty, pretty cool. And that has just made Schibsted, has been such a success for Schibsted. And I'm trying to see if I can look, if I have in front of me here, what Schibsted paid for Blocket. Yeah, here, 183 million Swedish crowns.
Uh-huh. Which year was this?
And this was 2003.
2003.
And that was
Okay.
probably an enormous amount of money for the founders to receive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
183 mil. That's a lot of cash.
Yeah.
But that has got to be the best investment. I mean, one of the best investments ever made by Schibsted. So it's pretty cool.
So what do you think makes Blocket unique today, for example? What could be the core success factor behind the brand?
Well, I mean, the first of all, I think the product in itself, when it was created, or
Mm.
it was it solved the problem that really existed. People
Okay.
wanted to do this, and placing things or making available things on an online marketplace solved problems for people. Buying things on an online marketplace solved problem, and that's continued to be a need around that. So obviously, having a real need is a great thing, and it's really convenient and it helps people. I mean, we see that many people, we track every year to see why do people use Blocket.
Okay.
And very many people use it to get rid of stuff they no longer need. And then the second biggest reason for using Blocket is because you want to make a buck or two, or you want to find something. You don't want to pay full price for something. You want to find it cheaper. The reason doing something really good for the environment, that has climbed a lot on that list the last few years. It's still not at the top, but we've, as people, as a society, as a foundation, we've become so much more aware of the fact that we have not been for a long time treating our planet well, so we have to do something about it. And so we're seeing a very increased awareness around that. See, I talk a lot. I don't even remember.
No, but it's really good. It's really good what you're saying, because I think I picked 2 points from here, which could be very interesting to all the entrepreneurs listening in. One is that it solves a real need. And in many cases, startup founders, they get stuck in an idea and they don't verify it. So I think we in startup space always tell them to go back to the market, verify it at a very early stage, see if this need is here or is this need outside in the market.
Yes.
So I think that's a very crucial point that you made, and it's very relevant to our people over here. And then your point that this need, and I think why Blocket is succeeding is because your marketplace concept works on both sides. So when you're doing
Yes.
these surveys, so both the buyers feel a need that they need to buy something cheaper, and the sellers feel a need, okay, can I sell this instead of throwing?
Yeah.
And the environment side, I think that's also a discussion in impact sector these days. Because in impact sector, when we judge health of a startup, of an early stage startup, is this idea going to be impactful in years to come? The impact needs to be part of the business model. So in this case, impact is already part of the business model. When they are buying and selling, impact is generated because that furniture item probably gets 3 more lives over its lifetime instead of just being thrown away.
Yeah.
So great.
It causes such. I mean, there's so much positive energy around our product. You can either make a buck, you can make a deal. You feel that you're doing something great for society. You're getting rid of shit from whatever cabinet or whatever the storage that you are like is just too full of stuff. So I that is definitely part of our success. And another part that is so important in that is the responsibility of making that experience safe and convenient. And those are aspects that we are working very, very hard on. But I think that just like you say, I think the success in Blocket it's a good product that was needed, and it makes sense for people. And it was not just in the entrepreneur's head; it was something that was actually needed out there. Number two, I think the timing was obviously right and has been for a long time. We have our 25th anniversary this year. And three, I think that any product, any company, any challenge or ride that you're on, you need the right people on it. And I think there's been great people on this ride throughout the phases, because without great people, employees, leaders, and all of that stuff, you'll get nowhere. So I think that's very key.
Very good point. About people, and I think I've seen Richard Branson. He says that if you're treating your people well, eventually it'll result in a successful business model. Let's talk about people. How are you as a team? Is it a small team, big team, hierarchical team, flat team? How does Blocket look from inside?
So, we are 250 people.
Okay.
Yes. And I think I would argue that we're not very hierarchical. I mean, we have managers and we have a management team, and we have mid-layer teams, but I mean, we're not super hierarchical. I think we're just typical organization. We are we work very much with change management. There's so much going on, and we're trying to do our best to to keep each other informed and to keep each other in the loop and to keep each other connected and to keep each other engaged and motivated and give each other the feeling of belonging to something. I think
Mhm.
the sense of belonging is extremely important in general. I think it makes people feel good if you belong somewhere. And the Blocket culture has, way before I came there, been always been very strong, is my understanding. And we call ourselves Blocketeers, and we have values.
Blockets. Okay.
Blocketeers, yeah, we have values, and we do things our way and stuff. But obviously, that's been a very challenge for us, just like everyone else, this
Mhm.
last year. But I believe that when I now, when you kind of, I reflect a lot on 2020, and
Mhm.
I know this is not a COVID hour. We're not going to spend a bunch of time talking about COVID, but I think it's still, it, it's going to leave traces with all of us for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
When we look back, I see kind of two phases. The first phase being very adrenaline driven. We had no clue what was going on in the world. Everything closed down in a week, and all of a sudden we
Yeah.
had people working from home. And what were your parents? I was like, are my parents really behaving? Are they staying inside? They shouldn't be at the grocery store. Are they?
Mhm.
And how are my kids? How are our kids doing? And what if my husband and I get sick at the same time? We haven't taught them how to cook very well. Like are they going to eat? Are we going to have food in the refrigerator, and there was no toilet paper in Sweden? There's so many things that were going on, and I think, but it was very adrenaline driven, and
Mhm. Mhm.
our product at the Blocket marketplace was. We realized very soon that, I mean, we're a very purpose-driven company, and we
Mhm.
we we contribute to a sustainable world with loads of opportunity for everyone. So we wanted to do something good out of it. We realized that we had something that could be useful to society in this
Mhm.
situation. So we offered that to society in many different ways, and that created a lot of pride in the organization. And we leaned on our purpose and on our values and everything.
Okay.
So even though when the pandemic was maybe in the toughest part because we hadn't
Mhm.
figured it out yet, I think our energy and our adrenaline was at the top. Whilst if you look at the kind of maybe second half of 2020 and where we are right now, it's it's a struggle. Like we would have thought this would have been over a long time ago,
Mhm.
we are struggling way more with engagement and a sense of belonging, and it's easy that you're tight with your closest group, but then in larger companies, the cross functional aspects are very important, and you don't meet naturally, and I think that that's just a struggle that we kind of all have,
Mhm.
that we just have to do the best we can. And I think that from when we got back from Christmas and New Year's, I've been every meeting I can, I talk about VVV, and VVV being vår, värme, vaccine, i.e. spring, warmth, and
Mhm.
vaccine. And we are getting there now. So
War, Verme,
yeah,
vaccine.
yeah,
Great. I like this slogan.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that we just have to ride it out as best
Mhm.
as we can and look out for each other as best as we can,
Mhm.
and then take our very big responsibility, all of us as human beings now, and make something good of what is about to come. I often
Yeah.
talk about Numal, and Numal to me is combining all the great cool things that we've learned in
Mhm.
this with all the things that we miss from before,
Mhm.
and making something great out of that. So I think my long answer, as usual, is that Blocket is a very value and purpose driven company, but we miss each other a lot. And we really
Mhm.
look forward to Numal together.
Well, that's a good point. Because let's see, because you're saying that you're when we started this point a few minutes ago, we said that we are managing the complexity. That the world is changing too fast, even before COVID. So we're saying, and we said that a team of 250, we try to keep each other updated. We meet frequently. How did this change last year, or since last year? What has been impact on your internal communication? How have you managed to stick together as a team of 250?
Well, we realized that what we did before, taking what we did before and kind of copy
Mm.
pasting it and making it digital, that was not the plan, or that was not
Okay.
the way to go. We have used Slack. Oh my God,
Mhm.
we use so much Slack. It's ridiculous. Like there's so much stuff going on. And the amount of emojis that we throw at each other is just unbelievable. I think that before I started working at Blocket, I don't think I'd ever texted or slacked a heart to any colleague. But there are hearts high and low, and they're in different colors and different shapes, and there are emojis. So I think that Slack has become a very, very important tool for us, both in terms of creating a sense of belonging and in terms of keeping each other's informed of things. We have also realized that we have needed to increase frequency of some meetings that we had before. We used to have monthly, what we call super meets. Some call them town hall, all hands, whatever you want to call them. They used to be monthly. Now we do them bi-weekly. We have what we call extended Blocket leadership team, i.e. all the leaders at Blocket. We used to have monthly gatherings. Now we do them bi-weekly. So that's also been a tool. We have worked very much with promoting and encouraging digital walk and talks.
Okay.
So if you can walk during a meeting, do it. If you can, just go outside as much as you can. We have increased the friskvårdstimme from 1 hour a week to 2.5 hours a week, encouraging people to exercise or do something at least half an hour a day to keep sane, and it's good for your body. And we have worked a lot with one-on-ones or one-to-ones, that you have to talk even more with your colleagues and stuff. And with my closest management team, we have check-ins 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where we set aside half an hour, and everyone's always walking. And we use Whereby as our platform, and we see each other's faces. And so I'm the strange woman in the neighborhood walking around with my phone like this every day. And I have double battery, and that's how I do it. And that half hour, of course, we talk some work, but we talk about what we did during the weekend, and if someone got a dog, and someone did this and that, and now it's time to go skiing or sailing or whatever it is. So that's how we stay connected, and we've tried to encourage that as much as possible with different teams. And I know the teams are doing really, really well with that, but we're struggling. I mean, it's coffee machine chats, an organization that is used to coffee machine chats, that is used to being on floor 11 and floor 12 of a building, and that now never sees each other. That's a big step. A multinational company, they're used to, you have way more tradition and culture and tools for working in different time zones and things like that. But we've never had to do that before. And so there's been a lot of adjustment, and now we want to see each other again.
Okay. Fair point. I think so. Frequent meetings, a lot of Slack, and a lot of emojis. Okay, great. Great. Let's move forward to a couple of more points. So we started.
I want to add one thing there. I think that it's even more important to communicate now than it ever has been before. And some people like seeing things in slides. Someone else likes hearing it from someone. A third person likes, I don't know, getting access through Slack or whatever it may be. And I think it's so important that we communicate. And that I believe that being a leader has never been as difficult as it has been this past year. And the expectations on leaders have never been higher than they are today or have been this past year. And I think that that's just something that we have to acknowledge and respect, kind of thing. And just everyone's been struggling in one way or the other with themselves or whatever it may be. And I think that's it's just something that we can't solve. We can just be there for one another and try to help each other through it.
Exactly. I think it's even even with the best of the digital tools, you cannot replicate a human meeting interaction. You can't have that body language going, the nonverbal cues, all that is gone. So you are stuck on a same screens. And at times, for example, for me, it's very difficult. I coach around 500 founders or startups every year. And it's very difficult to kind of remember people anymore.
Yes.
Because you cannot because when you're meeting a person in person, it's so much easier to remember what kind of dress they were wearing, what was their body language, how did they drink coffee, how did you have some chat?
Yep.
is all boiled down to
Yeah. And you may remember the sound of someone's laughter.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the context is gone. The context is now the screen. So
Yeah.
anyway, great points. Let's come back to the business model a little bit, because the organization started with a very simple idea from Skåne. A few years later, sold out at an enormous price at that time. Now
Yeah.
it's more mainstream, these investments or buyouts. Uh, how do you stand today? Is it still the buy and sell model which is at the core of the business, or are you evolving sideways or in other spaces? How is that going? Like new initiatives that you guys are creating, how is that turning out?
Well, we're trying some new initiatives, but I would say that our a very strong focus is getting even better at in the what we call verticals or in the
Okay.
marketplaces that we are in. So we talk about four marketplaces or four verticals. One being the generalist, or in Swedish we would say köp och sälj, and that is
Mm,
what I would argue that most people maybe associate Blocket with: the
mm,
couches and the bikes and the skis and the outdoor furniture and stuff like
mhm.
that. And then the second vertical is motors, and that is the cars and boats and caravans and anything that has or should have a motor or an engine in it.
Okay.
And third vertical is real estate.
Mhm.
And for us, that is very much rentals. So Hemnet in Sweden is doing a great job at sales. So
Okay.
we are doing a great job at rentals.
Okay.
And the fourth vertical is job, Blocket job, which is a job board. And all of these four, and I think that in the order I said them is also in the order that they have been created or been launched for Blocket, and that kind of became the Schibsted the marketplace playbook. So when all of these Blocket clones were made last 10 or 15 years around the world, that
Mm,
was also the way in that order that the marketplaces were increased by with verticals, and so we now considering what's happened in the world. I mean, Blocket's been around for 25 years. There were no
okay.
competitors for the main part of that period of time.
Mhm.
Now there's a bunch of competitors, big ones like multinational ones like Facebook, big ones in Sweden like
Yeah.
Tradera, but then a lot of niche players as well in these different verticals. Niche players that try to take or that are strong in maybe the complete vertical or parts of that specific
Yeah.
vertical. So we totally have to up our game, and just like I said, I mean, what's gotten us here today is not going to get us where we want to go tomorrow only.
Mm,
So we have to get even better and provide more value to our customers and our users in the different verticals than we are doing today in order to be very successful tomorrow. And I mean, the requirements and the expectations for us as users increase.
mm.
And so we have to be there to deliver on that, and that's lots of fun because there's so much opportunity there, and we're working with a bunch of entrepreneurs to do that. We are collaborating with TipTap, for instance.
Okay.
I think they are awesome, and I loved them before I started working at Blocket because they come to my driveway and they pick up my crap, and then it's gone when I look out the next day. And we collaborate with TipTap in order to make sure that, if you want to buy, you live in the northern part of Stockholm and you want to buy
Mhm.
something from the southern part of Stockholm, and you don't have a car, so you can just tick tick tick, and then it drives you home. We work with Rocker, who's a fintech company, where we together with them offer C2C loans, consumer to
Mhm.
consumer
Mhm.
loans or peer to peer loans, which is great. We work with Omocom, which is a company that helps us offer insurance for used goods.
Okay.
And we work with a company in Sweden called Bile, which is based from a company in Norway called Netbil, which we work with in our motor vertical. So all of these are small startups, and sorry, Casa. Casa
Okay.
is a company that we acquired, I think my fourth week at work or something. So I can't take any credit finding those stars, but they are superstars. And what we do with them, or Casa helps us make our rental offering safer, cooler, better for all of our real estate rental customers, users on both sides. So it's like an Airbnb, if you will, but long-term rental. So it's, even though you by no means can call Blocket a startup any longer, an entrepreneur company or anything like that, we are a tech company that takes a lot of entrepreneurs under our wings, and so it complements us a lot, which is fun. We're learning a lot from them.
Brilliant. So TipTap, Rocker, I have a personal experience. We update our phones every 2 years or a year, and then we kind of sell out the previous phone. So it worked very smoothly with Rocker, all the payment process and everything. So how do you work with these startups? Is it that they become involved in your day-to-day business, or is it more like a hands-off partnership? Is it APIs working? What's the culture like? What's the team structure like when you work with so many different startups in different areas? Yeah.
Well, legally, it varies. Like Casa, the rental company, we own them 100%. Rocker, for instance, they are partly Schibsted owned. Omocom is a separate company. So it all depends on, and so legally, or like the ownership structure is very different. Blocket has been around for a long time, and which is very cool, but that also means that we probably have a little bit of more complex code than many of the companies that have not been around as long. And whoever has most complex code is not going to be the happiest, maybe, or the easiest to work with. So there's no such, we can't collaborate with a startup and just say, okay, here are the APIs or whatever is that. Have fun. See you later. Come back with the solution. So we work very, very tightly together. One, due to the code itself, like it's complex and it's been around for a while, but also very much due to the fact that we believe that is how we create success together. Because you have to, it's proof of concept, and we're trying, with MVPs, and we experiment, and we're very data driven, and we have so much data. I mean, it's where we can really, really fast, we can see if something is great or not, and if something if it's a hit or a miss, we can get indication quite fast. I mean, we have 5 million unique users every week.
Okay, 5 million unique users. And we had I just wrote this figure somewhere. You said in 1998 there were 6,500 unique visitors.
A day.
Okay. Okay.
Quite an increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's see. Now, the startup space is evolving quite fast, and especially due to the COVID, I think we have seen a lot of boom coming in the fintech side, health side, and medtech. There's also stuff happening in e-commerce. Let's go back to COVID for a minute. Of course, this is not a COVID discussion, but let's see.
But it's hard not to.
How has things changed in the last 1 year? Consumer habits and behaviors, like, do you think it's a long-term switch that we are seeing, and what is it? What did it bring in terms of business? Did it go up, down? How did Blocket do generally in this period?
Well, Blocket did surprisingly well. Well, I wouldn't say surprisingly well, but we didn't. I mean, when we went into COVID, no one knew anything. So all the plans, the crisis plans that everyone was making, we did better than that, and we're very, very proud of our results during 2020. And different parts of Blocket did achieve different milestones, if you will. Blocket Job was the part of Blocket that was most challenged, because it's a job board where you match people, employees with employers. And there were not a lot of people employing healthcare, or like sjukvården, the different regions of public sector was, they needed help in terms of people working at hospitals and stuff, but there was a lot of, and logistics needed a lot of people, but then there were a lot of areas that were not employing that much. So I think Blocket Job is the part of Blocket that was mostly negatively affected by COVID. But then we saw from a motor perspective, we saw that used cars were there was very, very high demand for used
Mm-hmm.
cars. And we saw that the dealers were very eager to get those used cars from consumers, because new cars were not coming in to the dealers.
Mm-hmm.
Because the dealerships it was kind of empty at their dealers, because the production lines all around the world, car production lines all around the world, were still.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a big effect on that. So there was a very high demand and for used cars, and there was no supply of new cars. And then caravans and boats and water scooters and patio furniture and gym furniture and home office furniture. And there was just so much that was upswing. Because and everyone planned, very many people, bikes and skis, because people plan for a vacation at home or holiday at home. And as
Mm-hmm.
you know, in Sweden, we're off very many weeks in the summer, and so you got to do something there during those weeks. And so yeah, so there were some categories, just electronics, home electronics. Yeah, some categories just shot through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite fun, and we see that those categories are still going very, very well, because we still don't know if what we can do this summer either, and people have
Mm-hmm.
and anything that had to do with being outdoors has been. I mean, who has not had a lot of hot dogs outdoors this winter, freezing
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, because that's the only way to hang out. So, and I think that and we saw things like Blocket Paketet and services together with TipTap and stuff has definitely increased a lot as well, because you've gotten used to, through this pandemic, of things being more convenient, and you've learned to use services that you haven't used before. We've seen online purchases of cars has increased enormously,
Mm-hmm.
where in the past that was a product that's like, if I'm going to buy a car for all this money, I'm going to go have to physically touch it and feel it. I need to go to a dealership, and there's been big behavioral differences there. And the logistics companies have been great. I mean, in e-commerce in general, I mean, during our 3 years in the US, I mean, that's 10 years ago now, we always got everything delivered to the door, and it was very convenient. And in Sweden, you had to go to the grocery store for a million years and get in line with people. Now, all of a sudden, everything is delivered to the door. So things have definitely helped and gotten
Mm-hmm.
better for us as users, I think.
What do you think is coming in the entire marketplaces or e-commerce as we move into the next few years? What are some of the things you think are on the horizon which could be relevant for Blocket, or maybe generally relevant for the different players in this market?
Well, I think that ease of use is always going to be important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that our preferences and our kind of requirements on ease of use increase as other things happen around us. If other companies or other e-commerce platforms or whatever it may be, they offer new greater things, then we're all being compared to that. So we're becoming used to new behaviors and new offerings and new services, and that's going to affect us all. So our requirements as users increase the whole time. And I think that all marketplaces and in e-commerce in general will have to continue to uh, be relevant for
Mm-hmm.
everyone. So, from a typical marketplace is quite horizontal, if you
Mm-hmm.
will.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you go onto Blocket and everything is there. But if you log on to Blocket as a user and you're looking for a car,
Mm-hmm.
your purchase journey or seller journey is going to look one way and quite different from if I sell or buy a pair of shoes, or
Mm-hmm.
if I want to rent out my apartment, or rent someone's ski lodge for winter. So I think that marketplaces in general, marketplaces always have a broad marketplace like Blocket always has the challenge of the horizontal versus the vertical.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that is an e-commerce challenge in general.
Mm.
'Cause the broader you are, you need to find scale from a horizontal, and it needs to be
Mm.
relevant, and it needs to make sense. But you need to very much be make sense for the individual user journeys.
Has that ever come up as a branding challenge as well? Because the point is when you're in such a horizontal space, because and then within each space you go very broad. So, like say home items, and there are entire lot of home items.
Mhm.
While the competition, as you were saying a little while ago, there might be companies which are very focused on a vertical and very
Yeah.
specifically. So, does it become a stretch challenge for a brand like Blocket, or do you think Blocket can still maintain all this as Blocket?
No, it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. And Blocket has had a number. I mean, we still have the Casa brand that we use in some aspects. We've had a Blocket Jobb brand. We have we acquired Stepstone a few years ago. We still have
Hmm.
that brand. So we Beat Bil is another acquisition that we made a few years ago. And we still have that brand. So it's really it's complex. It's
Hmm.
complex because you want to load the brand with new stuff
Hmm.
because you want it to evolve, obviously. But again, you can't you have to keep your eye on the ball. Like I said from the beginning, you can't evolve it so much that you kind of lose its identity, and that's really it's difficult. We talk a lot about that. How far can our brand take us?
Well, in the typical market space, except for let's say the job and the rentals would be slightly different, but in other, when we are talking about goods,
Mhm.
goods or items, I think then sustainability could be a good focus
Oh, for
as
sure.
a brand building, because then it brings everything around the sustainability platform.
Yes.
So just
Yes.
a food for thought
Yeah.
over there. Plans going forward. You're still very Swedish as a company.
Mhm.
Why? And have you thought about expanding in abroad? And what are the challenges there, you think?
Well, Blocket has expanded abroad from the clones perspective of what
Okay,
I said.
okay.
So what Schibsted did was they bought Blocket back in what did I say, oh 03 or whenever, yeah, oh 03, and then ran Blocket as a Swedish marketplace, but then took
Hmm.
the code and ran other individual local marketplaces based on that. But it was
Okay,
all within the umbrella of Schibsted. So it's
okay.
all in the same group. And now there's been some structural difference changes. I guess about 2 years ago, we the other marketplaces, except for the ones in Norway, the Nordic countries, was rebuilt into another company called Adevinta, in which Schibsted has a big share. So
Okay,
it's already been very much internationalized. It's just that Blocket.se is a
okay.
very Swedish site or in Sweden, but the concept and
Hmm.
everything has always been there. So we have sister companies like Le Bon Coin, for instance,
Hmm. Hmm.
in France
But
and Spain.
that's also a good strategy, because that way probably it stays more relevant to the local context. Each brand has its own leeway to develop in its own market the way it wants to, yet delivering on the business model somewhere.
Yeah, but at the same time, had we had more, there's always the yes, you want to be relevant and local and everything. You have
Mhm.
the power to do things there, but on the other hand, you want to find scale.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if everyone has different clones and if everyone's doing it their own way, it's hard to find the scale. So I think that has been that's a struggle. That's always
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
struggle.
Hmm. Okay, good. We can move to questions in a minute or so, but generally, I would say, what would be your advice to some of the entrepreneurs out there who are trying to move into marketplaces, who are trying to build e-commerce model? There's a lot of activity going on in the startup space right now. What should they keep in mind when entering this space? What's a good way to build a venture or a scale a venture in marketplaces or e-commerce space?
Well, first of all, I want to say I take my hat off for all of them, for all of the entrepreneurs, because it's so brave and it's so awesome to have an idea, have a belief, have a dream, and run with it. I have never been that brave ever. I mean, I came into this company when it was 23 years old and it had a revenue of 1 billion SEK per year. So, first of all, take my hat off. I don't know that I'm the one to give advice because I've never done it, but I think that in any type of business, courage is
Hmm.
extremely important. Obviously, you have to be data driven, but it's got to feel good too. It's heart, mind, and soul. I think you have to kill your darlings, and you have to be ready and willing and able to pivot your idea and try new things, but keeping your eye on the ball. And I think it's really cool to see how many entrepreneurs have been, how kind of you have to capture an opportunity when it comes your way. And I think that a lot of companies have done that through COVID, for instance. And I think that people are the ones that are going to make the difference. You can have a great idea or a great concept or a great product, but with the wrong people, it's not going to fly. Whilst with the right people, you can create, the moon is the limit, or the sky is the limit.
Brilliant. So I think I'll summarize these points here. Like as an entrepreneur or as a startup team, courage is the most important thing, as you began with, and then capturing the opportunity is a crucial, because that is where you build your idea, and then keep an eye on the ball. That's what we started with when we started Blocket discussion, like 30 minutes or 40 minutes ago. And then people has been a consistent line that we have coming again and again to. And then with COVID, how things have changed on how people interaction. So courage, capturing the opportunity, eye on the ball, and people. 4 things for entrepreneurs.
From a non-entrepreneur, so take it with your thoughts. Again, hats off.
Okay, brilliant. Marina, can you? Okay, I'll bring you in, and we can have some audience questions now. Let's see. So Marina is joining us. She's part of the Startup Grind Stockholm team. And let's see if it's all working. Hi, Marina, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. It was really fun to hear your discussion. Super, super interesting. And I have to admit, for a second, I was like, I am now stopping what I'm doing, going to apply for Blocket. It sounds amazing.
Welcome. We're hiring.
I'm joking, but it sounds amazing. It sounds like a great culture, and also very appreciative. So I'm sure that when you work with startups, it feels really good to work as a startup for you. So and to collaborate. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And I will just jump straight in for some questions because we only have 5 minutes with you. So we have Alexander Alpsteig that asks, how do you see the competition from niche buyers and sellers like Facebook groups in the future? Are they, you just mentioned about it, but how is it gonna look like in your opinion?
Well, I think that Facebook is going to be around for a while. So I think that we're just kind of have to find our roles in it. We offer, some of our offering is very similar, but other parts of the offering are not. And I think that competition in general just makes us having to up our game, if you will. So there are some categories where Facebook is growing very, very strong, and then there are other categories where they're not. So we're just, it's but competition is what makes us better. It's tough, but it's what makes us better.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And what would you say is the thing that you should go on Blocket for versus Facebook when you're looking for something?
Well, I think that the safety and convenience is a lot of the things that we offer. And we offer add-on aspects that Facebook doesn't offer today, at least, like how shipping options, payment options, insurance options. And generally people go to Blocket because it feels very safe and convenient.
Right. Okay, nice. So we'll connect to you.
And because there's so much there. I mean, there's so much stuff there. You can find anything there, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
But that's absolutely, and that's very true. It depends on what you are prioritizing. Yes. Sometimes, you just want the services attached to it and the safety. So we'll just connect to Eugeni's question. So Eugenie K is asking, what specific steps is Blocket taking on making deals more secure and reliable? Any third-party collaborations there, and are you planning to expand in Asia and Southeast Asia? Are his questions. I guess they're all connected for him.
Yeah, so the later part of the question, no, because Blocket is Blocket in Sweden, but maybe Adevinta, I have no clue what Adevinta has any kinds of plans with those other marketplaces.
Oh.
In the first, we offer, we do a lot of, we create a lot of content on our site in terms for our users to read, in order to read up on, in order to learn more and educate themselves about how to make safer deals. Now, there's been a lot of smuggle dogs coming in, and we talk a lot about how to avoid that, and how to make sure that whatever dog you're buying has come from a good kennel, and all of these things, and how to, when you do a meetup purchase, how to, where you want to meet up and how you exchange the money. And that's why we very much promote what we call Blocket betalning, which is a very safe way of and Blocket Paketen, which is a very safe way of transferring money. We have a whole team working very closely to the police, because there are people in society that do fraud and do crappy things, and they're always going to be there. And we work very hard to limit them all the time. And we have some categories where you have to use bank ID in order to post them and stuff. So we do a lot of things in order to make Blocket as safe and as secure as we can. But it's a moving target. I mean, the people in society that want to do bad things, they come up with new bad things tomorrow than the ones they had come up with yesterday, because we've already blocked the bad things from yesterday.
Right. Yes. So in a way, there is always space for third-party collaborations. And
yes.
Sounds great. Yes. And then we have a question from Eric Zhang, who's asking, he's the co-founder of Mova, which is like a taxi app. A taxi app. Yeah, I was trying to rephrase this question. And the beauty is that the users set their own price for the delivery. Would be cool to offer a private last mile to Blocket users. Who should we contact in Blocket to offer this instant delivery experience? We did the research on LinkedIn, but still not sure which department we should address at Blocket for offering such
Send me an email.
Okay. Super Pernilla, Eric.
Pernilla.Nissler@blocket.se.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and then we have a question from Bear Klingwald. He's asking, he's saying, I love that you started collaborating with startups such as Swiftport or Rocker.
Yes, I forgot to mention Swiftport. Sorry. Yeah.
To offer value-adding services integrated into the Blocket platform. Is this something we'll see more of moving forward? I mean, is this a trend that is grow? Oh, great. And is Schibsted on the cap table on a requirement to be selected for such a partnership?
Well, I mean, generally, like our strategy, the Blocket strategy, is to become a next generation marketplace. We've been around for 25 years. We're a marketplace today, and we do great things, but in the future, we'll do even more things and more great things. And that's what we call becoming a next generation marketplace, where we'll be involved and we'll be offering value to our users in more depth, and bring more value to our users. And our strategy is we build some stuff on our own, we partner on some own, and we purchase sometimes. So build by partner are very, very important components of our strategy. So we will definitely look for more entrepreneurs and startup companies to work with in different ways, either by acquiring or investing in or just collaborating with. And then in addition to that, we have Schibsted has a whole organization where Schibsted as a money house, where we invest in companies and with the intent of seeing them grow and helping these companies grow. And that is ongoing all the time. We have a great and really cool portfolio of companies in there. And that is, worked on all the time. We have a whole big group of super intelligent people that work very well with the entrepreneurs out there.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Have we any more questions, or we are at the top of the hour? In fact, 1 minute over. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have many more questions, but
one more.
One more.
I have time for one more, and then I have to go to the next meeting.
Yes. So I will just take one from our own, and that is building projects that are at the crossover with the urban planning and design, how cities are growing and developing, and e-commerce. And I thought those people never meet, so we did some project with them. And I wanted to ask you if you could ask urban planners and designers or architects to change how they do things, they build and design spaces. What would be something that would help you grow or scale, or just simplify your business?
The block. I'm sorry. I don't think I understand the question.
Yeah, if you could be part of designing for example, a new neighborhood in Stockholm, and you could talk to the architects, and they would ask you to give input into the design. What would you like? What would you need to change in the city for a Blocket?
Oh, okay. Ooh, that's a big question. Well, I think mobility as a service. I think that we will move differently, and car ownership and shareship and everything, all of that. And then I think also delivery things. Like, I'd love for someone to come in and put stuff, not just from Autumn to deliver my groceries outside, but actually put them in the refrigerator. And like I think that like convenience, just make it even easier everything. But I have no, I don't know. I haven't really thought of that. So it's a very unprepared answer, but I think mobility as a service is very, very important for the future.
Mobility. Good.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Pernilla, thank you so much for joining in for today's discussion and meetup, telling us about Blocket, telling us about you. I think a lot of inspiring stuff for everyone. Thank you, Marina, for taking the questions, and all Startup Grind Stockholm team and all the people out there and entrepreneurs who have joined in. Thank you so much, and have a lovely rest of Friday and a great weekend, I would say.